In today's video, we are recapping a 2018 action mystery movie titled The Witch, Part 1: The Subversion. Spoilers ahead, watch out and enjoy. The movie starts by showing various scenes from different parts of the world, where children were used as subjects for experiments in the past. In the present time, Dr. Beck visits a laboratory that has experienced a violent incident. Despite a person's body still moving, she instructs her men to aim for the head. 2 kids successfully manage to escape from the facility, and they are being pursued by Dr. Beck's men, led by Mr. Choi. Mr. Choi is able to capture one of the escaped kids, but the other one, a girl, remains missing. Since they are unable to find her, Dr. Beck orders Mr. Choi to report to headquarters that the girl is considered decommissioned, since she will eventually die on the run. In a small village close to the laboratory, a farmer discovers the unconscious girl and promptly brings her to his home. The doctor reassures the farmer that she will recover, but there's a concern that she might lose her memories, including her name and age. As the farmer's wife is struggling to conceive, they decide to adopt the girl. After 10 years, the girl, now called Ja-yoon, is living a normal life as the farmer's daughter without any recollection of her past. One day, Ja-yoon wants to buy food for the cows but realizes she has no money. The seller refuses to give her more food, as she still owes a debt from before. However, the seller's son, who has feelings for Ja-yoon, secretly loads the cow food onto her truck, allowing her to drive away, which angers the seller. It is revealed that Ja-yoon's mother is suffering from Alzheimer's disease, and her family is facing financial difficulties. To cope with the situation, Ja-yoon's father plans to sell some of their cattle despite the falling prices. One day, after taking a bath, Ja-yoon experiences a severe headache, but fortunately it doesn't last long. Later that night, she searches the internet for information about Alzheimer's disease, and comes across several doctors who specialize in brain diseases, hoping to find a way to help her mother. The following day, Ja-yoon goes to school with her best friend, Myung-hee, who suggests that Ja-yoon participate in an audition for a national singing contest, with a grand prize of $500,000. Ja-yoon agrees to participate in the singing contest, because winning would mean she could pay her mom's hospital bills, and solve the financial problems in her family. Despite lacking singing ability, she surprisingly passes the preliminary stage, with the highest score among the candidates. At home, her parents are proud of her, but they become concerned when they learn that Ja-yoon will have to showcase a secret talent during the audition. Myung-hee assures them that nothing bad will happen, and that it might even give Ja-yoon extra exposure. However, they receive a mysterious call that adds to their worries. Before going to bed, Ja-yoon comforts her fearful mother, assuring her that everything will be alright, and she won't leave them. Later that night, while Myung-hee is having a sleepover, Ja-yoon experiences another severe headache, and this time the pain lasts much longer than before. Meanwhile, Mr. Choi is secretly observing Ja-yoon from a distance. The following day, they board a train to Seoul for the next phase of the audition. During the journey, Myung-hee proposes to be Ja-yoon's manager if she becomes famous. Suddenly, a young man sitting in front of them interrupts their conversation. He claims to know Ja-yoon, but she has no recollection of him at all. It surprises him to learn that Ja-yoon has a name now, as they were previously referred to by numbers. He addresses her as Ms. Witch, which only adds to her confusion. Despite his attempts to jog her memory, Ja-yoon still can't remember him. In frustration, the young man tries to slap her, leaving Ja-yoon in shock. Myung-hee screams, and the young man leaves. As he walks away, he accidentally bumps into another person and insults him. This leads to a confrontation. He then goes to the extreme of throwing the man off the train. Upon arriving at the studio, Ja-yoon delivers an outstanding performance that impresses the judges, allowing her to advance to the quarterfinals with an overwhelming number of votes. Despite the happiness over her success, Ja-yoon experiences another headache as soon as they leave the studio. And this time, it's so intense that it causes a nosebleed, indicating her condition is deteriorating. It is later revealed that she had consulted a doctor, who informed her that the headaches would eventually take her life within 2 to 3 months. The only hope for her survival is a bone marrow transplant from her biological parents, which could be the cure she desperately needs. As Ja-yoon performs on television, Dr. Beck watches with delight, knowing that her best creation is still alive and has been located at last. After leaving the studio, the girls are unexpectedly confronted by Dr. Beck's men, who try to kidnap them in a seemingly friendly manner. However, a group of children exiting the building provides a distraction, giving Ja-yoon and Myung-hee the chance to escape. They quickly call a taxi and take a train back home. Upon reaching their destination, while Myung-hee contacts her father for a ride, the young man from earlier appears again and threatens her, warning that he will harm her parents. In response, Ja-yoon rushes to her house and urges her best friend to call for help. It turns out that Myung-hee's dad, Mr. Do, is a police officer, and he decides to visit Ja-yoon's house to investigate the situation. As the young man is preparing to attack the house, Officer Do arrives and politely requests to see their identification. The girls return home shortly after and find the police car empty, which raises their concerns. Using her abilities, Ja-yoon locates their fathers and they rush to the house, only to discover that their dads are simply playing chess together. Before leaving, Officer Do informs Ja-yoon that the young man and his companions are Americans, but she denies knowing them or having any connection to them. Meanwhile, the young man and his group confront a professor in his laboratory. This professor used to work alongside Dr. Beck, but he refused to cooperate with her, leading her to send the young man and his team to eliminate him. Outside the laboratory, the young man demonstrates his mind control ability. He also exhibits his skill to control a gun without touching it, showcasing his dangerous capabilities. After the incident at the laboratory, they set it on fire and make their escape. The following day, Dr. Beck meets with Mr. Choi, and advises him to take a vacation in Europe, warning him not to meddle in her affairs again. Though unhappy with the decision, Mr. Choi has no choice but to follow his superior's orders. He tries to convince Dr. Beck that Ja-yoon is a dangerous monster and should be killed, but she refuses to do so. Later, Mr. Choi meets with a professor secretly to seek help in curing his disease. However, the professor demands that Mr. Choi bring him Ja-yoon's head as payment for the cure. During dinner, the family members express concern over Ja-yoon's mom's worsening condition, as her dementia is progressing, and she can no longer recognize her own daughter. That night, Ja-yoon wakes up in agony, crying out as the severe headache returns. Unbeknownst to them, Dr. Beck's men sneak into the house and threaten Ja-yoon's mom with a gun. As Ja-yoon leaves her bedroom, she realizes that she is surrounded, and her best friend, Myung-hee, is taken hostage. A man accuses Ja-yoon of almost killing him in the past, but she insists that she doesn't remember anything and has no knowledge of him. Despite her pleas, one of the men hurts Myung-hee, and this triggers Ja-yoon's rage. Suddenly, she unleashes her true abilities, becoming incredibly fast, almost as fast as light, and ruthlessly starts taking down all of Dr. Beck's men one by one. After defeating the last man, the young man reappears and is astonished by Ja-yoon's true power. He explains that Ja-yoon was created differently, excelling in every subject effortlessly. Despite the revelation, Ja-yoon still doesn't remember who the man is. He shows her a scar on his forehead, revealing that she inflicted it on him in the past. Gradually, memories of her past start coming back, but she is hesitant to acknowledge them. The young man threatens to harm everyone in the village if she doesn't follow him. Reluctantly, Ja-yoon agrees, instructing her friend Myung-hee to take care of her parents. On the other side, Mr. Choi gathers all the field agents and prepares to assassinate Ja-yoon. As they travel, it is revealed that Ja-yoon intentionally chose her foster parents, as she was certain they would never abandon her. In the abandoned laboratory, Ja-yoon is brought to an interrogation room, where she finds herself tied to a chair. Dr. Beck welcomes her from the other side of the room, expressing her relief that Ja-yoon is still alive. Ja-yoon remains confused, and has no recollection of the events or her past. Dr. Beck, determined to make her remember, instructs one of her men to inject a liquid into Ja-yoon. Through this process, it is revealed that Ja-yoon was one of the experimental subjects in a brain experiment conducted by Dr. Beck. The memories from her past start to resurface, shedding light on her mysterious abilities and the experiments she experienced. The professor asserts that she is currently considered the world's most skilled brain specialist, and Ja-yoon is one of her most successful engineered creations. Ja-yoon was specifically trained by Dr. Beck to become a ruthless and lethal killing machine, making her even more powerful. In the movie's early stages, they attempted to eliminate all the kids from the same generation as Ja-yoon, because they exhibited exceptional control and intelligence. The higher authorities grew fearful of this generation's capabilities, as they worried about losing control over them. Consequently, Dr. Beck was ordered to decommission all of them. However, Ja-yoon was unique, and despite multiple attempts, Dr. Beck's men couldn't kill her. The professor orders the man to inject another serum into her. This serum allows Ja-yoon to unleash her full strength, but only for a limited period of 1 month. As Ja-yoon receives the injection for her condition, her demeanor suddenly shifts drastically. It becomes clear that she has never lost her memories, and has been pretending to be unaware of her past all along, solely to find the professor. It is further revealed that Ja-yoon intentionally showcased her talent during the audition to catch the professor's attention. With this revelation, she quickly breaks free from her restraints, and eliminates the man in the interrogation room. Dr. Beck tries to release nerve gas to paralyze Ja-yoon, but she manages to escape through the ceilings, avoiding the gas and making her way towards confronting the professor. Ja-yoon bravely confronts the professor, aiming the gun at her while making it clear that she never forgot anything, especially the day when their generation was targeted for elimination. She shoots the professor in the leg, forcing her to disclose the location where the serums are stored. Meanwhile, the young man realizes he has been deceived and rushes to the scene. However, Mr. Choi and his men arrive and begin firing at them. It is then revealed that the young man is actually the same kid Mr. Choi captured earlier. In the intense battle, the young girl intervenes and swiftly eliminates all of Mr. Choi's remaining men using her knives. Meanwhile, the young man launches a surprise attack on Ja-yoon, challenging her to a duel, claiming that he has become stronger than ever. However, despite his increased strength, he remains no match for Ja-yoon's incredible speed and skill. He is unable to land a single blow on her and is ultimately defeated with a powerful kick. While she is about to finish off the young man, Mr. Choi appears and shoots Ja-yoon. He then proceeds to finish off Dr. Beck. Mr. Choi attempts to fight Ja-yoon, but she is on an entirely different level. She outmatches him in skill and easily overpowers him, resulting in his demise. Despite the odds stacked against them, the young man and the girl refuse to give up. The girl tries to stab Ja-yoon, but Ja-yoon anticipates the move and swiftly deals with her. In her determination, Ja-yoon presses the young man to reveal the location of the research facility, but he remains resolute and refuses to divulge the information. Consequently, she shoots him. With the serums in hand, Ja-yoon proceeds to burn down the laboratory before heading straight to the hospital. There, she gives the serums to her father, hoping they will slow down her mother's dementia. In an emotional moment, her father confesses that he once regretted adopting her, but her mother always reassured him that, with love, she would grow into a lovely girl one day. This revelation touches Ja-yoon deeply. Saying her goodbyes, she leaves, waving to her best friend for the last time. 3 months later, Ja-yoon mysteriously appears at the house of a woman, who happens to be Dr. Beck's sister. She demands that Dr. Beck's sister create a more permanent serum for her, setting the stage for an intriguing continuation of her journey. That's all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. To see more videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you next time.